come across or will come across the City Council's table for action. I know that it can send a lot of messages to you, and I know that it seems like there are a lot of new developments in the city of Detroit, and they're actively happening in downtown Detroit. But today, we're doing a special neighborhood edition to hear about what's happening outside of downtown. Joining me today is Willie Donwell, the director of the Board of Review, Katy Mallory. Did I say it right? Correct me. Please correct me. Marcon, Katy Marcon.
It's close enough, Council President.
Okay, the deputy director, and Katy. Come on, Katy, help me out.
Katy Trudeau. Yep, Trudeau.
Deputy Director of Planning and Development Department. But before we hear from any of our city guests, we will hear from Cheryl Stafford, who is a DTE Energy Assistant Analyst for Low Income Energy Assistance. Thank you so much. I think I could get your name right because it was with us before. So thank you so much for joining us. Let me start off by saying this past week, over the last past week, and the past weekend, there was a lot of texting going around that said that DTE had about $28 million grant to give away. The story got to be so good that by Monday, I was receiving texts saying that I was giving out $28 million. That's how good the story got. So the first part about DTE is a little bit somewhat correct, because DTE is involved in what's going on. The second part about me is totally wrong. I don't have a penny to give out. So I am going to talk to Ms. Stafford about what is going on. Can you please just tell us exactly who's providing the grant? Let everybody know that it's not Council President Brenda Jones, and what it's for, and who can apply for that grant.
Yes, I can. So it's not Councilwoman, it's not DTE Energy. It's actually the Department of Human Services, the state, and other MEP agencies such as Salvation Army, THAW, MCAAA, Wayne Metro, True North. So several of them, they have funding available to help customers with their utility bills. So the state is running probably about $20 million in SER fund, which is state emergency relief. And they're paying up to $1,150 per commodity. So $1,150 to electric, $1,150 towards gas. And this ends actually on the 30th of this month. And then after that, it goes back to just $850 per electric and $850 towards gas. And they changed a lot of rules in the process with COVID. You know, they're allowing the customers, they raised the arrears from $2,000 to $3,000. They raised what they could have as far as asset from $5,000 to $15,000. They got rid of I have to have an interview process, and the workers are now just pretty much, you know, going through the application. And if they need to contact the customers, they will. And they also removed the monthly payment that customers had out there, that they had the copays they had to pay ahead of time, which should help with a lot of the copays that people had that prevented them from getting SCRs. So the state has made a lot of changes to help get the money, to help get enrolled on low-income self-sufficiency program, which after you get the SCR, you can go and enroll on a budget plan that's been tailored for low-income customers. And you go through one of the MEP agencies, as I said before, which is Salvation Army, THAW, True North, Wayne Metro, United Way. So you can call any of those to get the funding. But that's where the money is lying, and we're pushing so hard. DT is pushing really hard because customers are not getting the funds to help. And we are, it's coming up on the winter months. And the rules change after September 30th. Oh, I can't hear you.
You talked about the gas and the light. There are other services that they are offering as well, other than gas and light. Can you talk about some of the other services that they are offering dollars for?
Yes, so you can actually reach out to 211 or one of the agencies to help you complete. If you go online, you can go through My Bridges online if you're savvy and complete the application yourself, but you can apply for food stamps, you can apply for burial systems, you can apply for water. So they have not just for gas and lights, but just the whole, a customer as a whole. Those are all available out there.
Okay, thank you. And what are some of the qualifications that will qualify a person? I know you gave an example, but can you talk about the qualifications?
Yes, so the qualifications, 150% of the federal poverty guidelines. So for one person that gets SSI or Social Security, it's about $15,000 a month. For a working person with wages, it equates to about $1,900. I said 15,000. I'm sorry, $1,500 a month. And then for a working person with wages, it equates to about $1,900 a month, because the state do take off a percentage from your working for taxes. So that way they can actually go. So when they see the numbers, you normally see just the numbers after the taxes is taken out when you see the charts. And besides that, you just have to have a past due. A lot of people say, I don't have a shut off. You don't need a shut off notice. You just need to be past due. So if you're past due and we haven't given you a shut off notice, because for a while we weren't passing out shut off notices, you can still apply.
Okay, and what is the deadline date again?
So the deadline date for the qualifications that are going on right now is September 30th. New qualifications begin on October the 1st. So
Okay,
your arrears amount will drop and the SER amounts will drop.
You said 311 was one of the locations they can call. Can you give DTE's number that they can call in any other way that they can get access to the information?
Yes, so it's 211 that you want to call to get the burial and the other assistance. And DTE is 1-800-477-4747. And if they press number 6, after they get past the first 2 messages about emergency, they can get to a DT Energy rep that can help them with that SCI process.
Okay, thank you so much for that. And there is a website, if I'm not mistaken, that they can go up on. Can you give that information?
For the SCI?
Yes.
Yes, it's My Bridges, mybridges.michigan.gov. So mybridges.michigan.gov.
Thank you so much for that great information. Can you hold on the line? Can you stay with us for about another 10 minutes or so, just in case anyone has any questions?
I sure can.
Thank you so much. I want to just take the opportunity to thank you again for giving us that information. Thank you for staying on with us for a few more minutes. And I just want to just take an opportunity to introduce to some and present to others, not other than Willie Donwell, who is from the director of the Board of Review. And good afternoon to you, Mr. Donwell.
Good afternoon, Council President. It is a pleasure to be here and joining everyone today.
It is always an honor to see you and to have you with us. I know I'll call you a lot, but to be able to see your smiling face is an honor for me to see, other than hearing your voice on the phone. So thank you for all that you do as well in assisting people who need assistance. Can you just give us an update on what has been going on these past few months with the Board of Review?
Absolutely. But before I get into the Board of Review, I just want to share one additional thing. August 15th, they lifted the moratorium regarding evictions. And the Board of Review has been seeing, some appeals as it relates to landlords or people living in homes as it relates to property taxes. So I just want to let everybody know that there are some resources out there as it relates to this issue. And they want to contact 866-313-2520. This is the network of community organizations that's providing assistance relative to eviction and tax foreclosure, which includes United Community Housing Coalition, Michigan Legal Services, and Lakeshore Legal Aid. So I think it's important that, we share as much information as possible, even because we're hearing it through a number of appeals. So I just want to share that. The Board of Review is again a product of City Council. We hear property tax appeals, and when COVID hit, kind of like everything else, we just kind of slowed down to a crawl. Fortunately, we didn't stop because we understood the need, and we were working remotely for a while to just put together our plans in terms of going forward. So we are up and active and moving forward. We do have an online process for homeowners to file for property tax exemption, which is at detroitmi.gov/HPTAP. That's detroitmi.gov/HPTAP. We want you to file now. Please file now. Don't wait till that December 14th deadline, because if you're missing information or we have to try to contact you, it makes it very difficult for us to reach out to you, because we're required by state law to cut off and make decisions by a certain date. So file now, get that application in so we can review it and make sure that you can get processed. Because again, a lot of people don't know this because of COVID. There was a new law that was passed just at the beginning of March, which is called Pay As You Stay, which allows for the county treasurer to reduce the back tax obligation. But you have to have a property tax exemption through our HPTAP program in order to become eligible for pays. So we want you to file now so we can get you through the process and get you over to the county treasurer to get that reduction in back taxes. It can be very massive in terms of that reduction, almost 90% in terms of what the reduction is. A homeowner who may owe $12,000 in back taxes that has a $10,000 taxable value, that $12,000 could be reduced to $1,000. And we've already gotten over 5,000 people processed into pays. They're getting assistance. Close to 65% of them have now wiped out their back tax debt. And we're trying to reach that other 1,300 to make sure they get into the program. But if you have not applied for the Homeowners Property Tax Assistance Program, apply now, apply today. Go online to the city's website and provide all the supporting documentation to make sure that we can make a fair and impartial decision. We want to help you stay in that home and not lose it to tax foreclosure.
Let me ask you a question, and thank you for that information, Mr. Donwell. And I know that information basically is speaking to homeowners. Is there anything available for renters? Do you know of anything that's available, any resources that are available to renters?
Yep. So that's what I was mentioning at first. The Detroit Eviction Prevention Resources is actually on the City of Detroit website, and they can actually find that under Housing and Revitalization. But it provides resources for tenants and landlords who are struggling with either the collection or payment of that monthly rent. And so they need to go and apply. There is an application process. There are standards involved, but people are getting through the process. And under no circumstance does City Council want to see a person evicted from their home, foreclosure, or whether it's from lack of paying rent. The resources are there. Go to the City of Detroit website under Housing Revitalization and make sure that you apply.
Okay, thank you. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
I would just like to add that, again, the Board of Review is here. We're available to make sure that if you need help or support with completing the application on the city's website, there are a list of 14 community action agencies that are listed, including, in addition to that, also Wayne Metro and United Way 211 also provides resources for the completion of the application. If you have to fill out a paper application and you cannot fill it out online, call 313-224-3035, 313-224-3035, and we'll mail an application out to you.
Thank you so much. And so many people think the Board of Review only work a certain time of the year. When does the Board of Review actually work?
All year long. Detroit is the largest city in the state of Michigan with the highest parcel count. The Office of the Assessor manages over 400,000 parcels on the assessment roll. And unfortunately, there are a large number of our homeowners that do require assistance. And it can't be done overnight because we have to review the information, make sure things are in order. And then we just have those homeowners where it's just a struggle for them to actually have access. So while we work with technology and try to make sure that we can provide other resources for people to give access, we still cannot discount our most vulnerable, our disadvantaged, and those that are challenged. So throughout the year, we just take it up in arms to make sure that we make sure that everyone is serviced.
Okay. This is your time, callers and listeners. If you are on the phone, you can press *9 to raise your hand if you have a question. If you are on a Windows computer, you can press the ALT button +Y. If you are on an Apple's computer, you can press the Option +Y. If you are on Facebook, please type in your question and we will try our hardest to get you an answer. I do see Pastor Griffin, who has her hand raised.
Thank you, Honorable Council President. It's just good to see you.
It's always good to hear your voice.
Yes. My question, well, let me let you see me. Okay. My question is for Mr. Donwell. How are you, Mr. Donwell? What is the status of the NEZ?
The NEZs are being reviewed by City Council. As we all know, COVID slowed down a lot of things.
Yes.
So, and the NEZ reassignment of property throughout the city of Detroit was not able to be taken up by City Council. So they are currently reviewing it. And I know that they will have some additional conversation coming up here soon.
Okay.
So hold on for one moment. Mr. Donwell, for those people who do not know what NEZ is, because everybody don't go by letters, can you say what NEZ is?
Sure. It is a neighborhood enterprise zone, and the specific portion of the act that she's talking about, that Pastor Griffin is talking about, is the homestead portion. The city of Detroit has a limited amount of territory in which the NEZ homestead can be applied to. And so it is being considered to redistrict some of those territories. City Council has the right and ability to change what those districts look like, and that discussion is going on now. We have a number of other types of NEZs, which are like the new and rehab, which also give a discount, but may not lie in a NEZ homestead territory. So what happens to those homeowners when that NEZ new or rehab goes away, or just over the course of time, as property values change, should the territories be redistricted? So that's what City Council is looking at now.
And the reason why I brought it up, Madam President, is that for those of us who chose to build homes in Detroit as opposed to living in the suburbs in 2005, in order for us to do that, we were part of the NEZ program. After 15 years, the program goes away. And so that means that our taxes are probably twice as high. And so because we wanted to live here and stuck and stayed through all of the, up until this point, we wanted to make sure that we could stay and not have a mass exodus. And I'm speaking specifically about Woodbridge Estates, where you have 60 homes that are part of that. And so we wanted to make sure that we have the opportunity to go into the homestead piece, and then that way we could stay and not have to move out of our homes because of the increase in property taxes, which would increase our mortgage rates.
Okay, thank you so much for your question and that explanation of NECs to both of you. I did see another hand up as well. And I think I don't see it now, Ms. Wesley or whomever is monitoring.
Mr. Ronald Madden.
Mr. Madden, you have a question for either Ms. Stafford or Mr. Donwell? He is on mute. You are off of mute, Mr. Madden.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. Council President Jones, Mr. Donwell, Ms. Caitlin Chrome. Good to see you guys again. I have a question. Well, one is that on the ad that was sent out, the advertisement for this meeting, there should have been some links on there to click on the items that was there. And one of them was on the streetscapes. I did click on that. I don't know if I
we have not gotten to that part of the discussion yet. It is coming up right after this.
Okay, so
if you just stay tuned for a moment, we will be getting to that.
Okay, I can do that.
Okay, thank you. And we'll come back to you with your question. Thank you. I also thought I seen another hand that was up.
Yes, Council President, is Galaxy Note 8.
You are?
Galaxy Note 8.
Okay, Galaxy Note 8. Can you please unmute yourself? You are muted. Can you please unmute yourself, Galaxy Note 8? You are muted. Galaxy Note 8, you are on mute. Can you please unmute yourself?
Okay, I guess we want to come back.
Well, Galaxy is muted. We will go to Pastor Robert Preston Harris, whose hand I also see up. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, everyone. Hey, God bless. Hey, just a quick question regarding the streetscape specifically. There's some.
Okay, hold on for one moment, Pastor. We've not gotten to the streetscape part yet. We were specifically talking about the monies from the State Emergency Release Fund as well as the Board of Review. So we will be coming to that very shortly. So if you can just stay tuned, we will be coming to that portion very shortly.
No, thank you, Council President.
Thank you. Willie Bell has his hand raised as well. And while we're going to Willie Bell, let me try to go back to Galaxy Note 8, who also have their hand up again. And okay, hold on for one moment, Galaxy Note 8, and we're gonna go to Willie Bell. Mr. Bell, is your question for either DTE regarding the emergency money or to Mr. Donwell, the Board of Review.
So I'm trying to understand which category I fall in or in between, but I'm a community organization that has purchased property from the land bank in a certain community, and we're looking to purchase more property in this particular community.
Okay, if you can stay on hold for a moment, we will be talking to you very shortly. We were specifically dealing with two issues on this, and that was the Board of Review and the State Emergency Relief Fund. So
Okay.
if you hold on, we're coming to that part very soon. So if you can, we're gonna put you back on mute, and if you could just stay with us for momentarily. Galaxy Note 8. If you can unmute yourself. Okay, you are unmuted.
Okay, hello, everyone. It's to Mr. Willie. He's been my hero in the property tax exemption, and I've been on this for 5 years, and he told me the next time that I have to fill this out in the next year that I don't have to do the paperwork anymore. Is that true, Mr. Willie? Do you hear me?
Yep, it is a reduced amount of paperwork. What we have done is created a process where, especially for our seniors, where the amount of information that we require now is just greatly reduced. You know, and I don't want to make it sound too simple, but if a person has been in their home for an extremely long amount of time, and we've 5 years of getting a deed, 5 years of getting the same income, especially if a person is retired, and all they're going to get to see is a change in the CPI as it relates to Social Security. Why do we keep asking for the same thing? Why not allow the person to simply do a reduced application process, and then in the next 3 to 5 years, have them do another one, full application, to see if things have changed? So we've added that to our process to make it less strenuous on not just the homeowner, but on the board's resources. It just makes common sense to make things simpler.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Donwell. I want to again thank you both. We need to move on, but I do have one question that I want to ask you, Ms. Stafford. And I know that we talked about energy, we talked about some of the money that there is available. Do you know whether or not the State Emergency Relief Fund also covers dollars for property taxes as well?
Not sure about property taxes, but definitely for rent.
Okay.
Rent.
Okay, all righty. I want to thank both of you all for being with us today. You are welcome to stay for the second part of the conversation if you can, but if you can't, I understand that both of you are extremely busy. And so I just want to say thank you for being here with us this afternoon.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to stay. I'll just be working and watching.
Thank you. Thank you. We're going to move on to the second part of the conversation. And again, I want to say good afternoon to Ms. Marcon and Ms. Trudeau. Let's talk about neighborhoods. We have a lot of people that we know want to talk about neighborhoods. So we're going to talk about neighborhoods now. Ms. Trudeau, pronounce it for me right.
It's Trudeau.
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 He is,
yep.
Okay. I thank you for working with me because I hate to pronounce someone's name wrong. She is the city's strategic neighborhood fund that she's been working with. And the city has received around $130 million in support dollars and funding from the city and the state. This fund is the main financial source for the city's 14 neighborhood plans. Is that correct?
There are actually 10 neighborhood plans that are beneficiaries of the Strategic Neighborhood Fund dollars, and then an additional 4 or 5 plans that are underway in other areas of the city that are outside of SNF.
Okay, can you give us a brief overview and a status of these plans and where are they, which ones are completed, and what's on the horizon?
Absolutely. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Council President Jones, for having me this afternoon. As the Council President mentioned, the Planning and Development Department currently has active a number of neighborhood framework plans. We call these neighborhood framework plans, but they really encompass, each planning area encompasses multiple neighborhoods. We have completed about, let's see, I'm looking at a map here. We've completed about 10 of these. They typically last about 12 to 18 months and include an extensive amount of community engagement. We have another 5 plans underway that we'll be completing in the next probably 6 to 9 months. We have plans on every side of the city. So we have a plan active right now in Warrendale and Cody Rouge. And then over on the far east side, plans active in the Gratiot 7 Mile area of the city, as well as East Warren and Cadieux. And then in the southwest area of the city, both primarily in District 6, we have framework plans occurring in Greater Corktown as well as in Del Rey. We've completed plans across the city, Grand River Northwest, which encompasses neighborhoods like Grand Mont Rosedale and Old Redford, the Livernois McNichols plan, a plan in Russell Woods and Narden Park in District 7, a plan at Rosa Parks in Claremont around the Herman Kiefer development in District 5. And then we've got plans in Southwest Detroit at Verner Boulevard that have completed, the East Riverfront, Eastern Market, planning study in Island View and Greater Villages, which is part of our SNF program, a planning study in Jefferson Chalmers, as well as in Campo Banquetown. Plans that are part of our Strategic Neighborhood Fund initiative, as Council President Jones mentioned, these plans are these frameworks neighborhoods are the recipient of some dollars that are combined resources from money we've fundraised from corporate partners, as well as some philanthropic funders that operate in the city of Detroit, like the Kresge Foundation, the Wilson Foundation, and many others, as well as city dollars that Caitlin will talk a little bit more about, that fund projects like streetscape infrastructure, as well as park improvements. And so those are dollars that the city has committed to the Strategic Neighborhood Fund in the form of different sorts of bond proceeds that help us to leverage these other private investments for neighborhoods. We launched the SNF initiative back in 2016 with just 3 neighborhoods, Livernois, McNichols, Southwest Detroit, and Island View Villages. And then we expanded it to 10 in 2018, adding 7 more neighborhoods. And typically we do as I mentioned, an extensive engagement process. We often hire consulting firms to assist us with these plans. The Planning and Development Department is actually fairly small, and so we hire. And then the engagement process, as I mentioned, typically lasts about 12 to 18 months. We do 4, at a minimum, we do 4 large-scale town hall meetings for every plan, as well as a lot of engagement in between those that include attending block club meetings, having office hours. We've also managed to continue to do a lot of this type of activity during COVID. We've been holding lots of virtual office hours and doing as much as we can to stay in touch with the community while we're doing that. And then the last point I'll make before turning it back to you, Council President, is that the way we do the planning study, but then we conduct the planning study in partnership with city departments the entire duration of the plan, so that we can move as seamlessly as possible into implementing the projects that we've talked to the community about in the plan. So a partnership that we have very closely is with the Department of Public Works. So we work with Caitlin and her team while we're doing the plan, and then we work to transition the recommendations that come out of that plan to the department that's going to then continue the community engagement around the actual implementation and construction of all of the projects that we've funded and talk to the community about during the planning process.
So what type of engagement is done during the actual implementation?
We hold the same types of meetings. They're typically a little smaller in scale. We will have I'll let Caitlin talk a little bit more about how her streetscape meetings run, but the Public Works, General Services, the Housing and Revitalization Department, when they move from a planning process into implementation, they also hold a series of meetings. Sometimes they're town halls. Sometimes they're smaller meetings that are targeted towards maybe a business community, or a meeting that's targeted towards residents that maybe live immediately adjacent to a park that we're going to improve. And so the engagement looks similar, but it's often a little more targeted because we're trying to install a project that we're funding with the city that's going to impact a specific smaller group of people.
Okay, and one last question. Is there any place online that if people are interested in seeing the projects, is there any place online they can go to see what's going on?
Yes, the Planning and Development Department has our own website that, and each of the planning studies that we have either both completed and underway have their own designated webpage. I'm trying, it's detroitmi.gov. I believe you can just type in /PDD, but I will get back to you with that exact URL.
Thank you so much for the information that you gave us. Very helpful. I am going to move on to Katy Marcon. Did I pronounce it right?
Caitlin.
Okay, thank you. The city of Detroit is investing like $80 million in bond funding to improve streetscapes. And we know we got some streetscape callers, and also to improve commercial corridors across the city. These streetscape improvements support the city's neighborhood planning efforts that we just heard about. Can you just talk about what a streetscape is and how does it help improve the neighborhood?
Great, yes. So thank you for having me, Council President. I love when you invite us out to talk about some of these projects because they are very exciting for the neighborhoods. So streetscape in general is a fancy word that just means the beautification of a roadway. So the space between the buildings. It could be talking about the sidewalks, the roadway itself, the lighting, the benches, all of that. When we talk about streetscapes right now in Detroit, they are talking about very particular projects that, as you mentioned, are funded with the $80 million in bond funds. And those do coincide with the neighborhood framework plans that Katy just mentioned. And we have those going on across the city. They are dollar amounts assigned to very specific corridors that were identified through the planning process, and then began their community engagement through the planning department to hear on a broad scale what the neighbors want to see in a commercial corridor. Many of these were chosen to directly bring retail tax dollars back into the city of Detroit. So there was a study done by the DEGC back in 2016, I believe, of which they identified how much retail spending is happening by Detroiters in the suburbs. So many of the commercial corridors that run through the city, at one time they were thriving and we were collecting lots of sale tax revenue from those sales. And then through some of the tougher years economically in Detroit, many Detroit residents chose to turn to, or were forced to turn to, because of a lack of options in their neighborhood, suburban spending. And this was an attempt to reinvest city dollars back into the city's neighborhoods to give downtown type amenities to the commercial corridors to attract, again, those residential dollars being spent back in the city of Detroit, and to support the businesses that have hung on in Detroit, and to also then attract new businesses to come and invest in these corridors in Detroit.
Okay, thank you so much. And where in the city do we currently have streetscapes, and where are they planned for in the future?
So the project, the $80 million was to fund projects between 2019 and 2022. In 2019, we started our first 6 projects, and those included Livernois, or I should give you the extents too. Livernois from between 7 and 8 Mile, Riopelle and Eastern Market, Joseph Campos south of Jefferson, Grand River between, essentially between Southfield Freeway, north to Berg Road, Verner along from Norfolk to Clark, and Bagley between the Service Drive and 24th. Those were that's the list of 2019 projects. In 2020, we actively have 4 projects under construction, and that is McNichols between Livernois and Wyoming, Kirchville between Grand Boulevard and Parker, Conant between Davison and Carpenter, and what we're calling the Grand Parklet, which is a very dangerous and confusing intersection at Plainview, Puritan, and Grand River. And then for the 2021 program next year, we have Rosa Parks between Grand Boulevard and Claremont, East Warren between Corville and Cadue, and West Warren between Metatol and Longacre. And then ultimately in 2022, we want to be set up to do East Jefferson, but currently we are using the bond dollars to design a project that we will a grander project that we will hopefully be able to apply for federal dollars for in 2021.
Okay. Thank you so much for that information. And before we go to the questions, I want to just come back to one of my favorite subjects that I get so many calls about. I was just in the Secretary of State and someone asked me, how do I go about getting a speed bump? I can tell you that I called the director, Ron Bromlich, and he said, Council President, I love you, but please tell me you're not calling me about another speed bump. And so speed bumps have been a wide variety of conversation these days, more than I've ever heard speed bumps. I even got a call from another municipality that said, can you talk to me or tell me who I can talk to about what company you guys are using for speed bumps? So that has been a lot of requests for speed bumps, a lot of talk about speed bumps. And I know just recently, Mayor Duggan announced the expansion of the speed bump program. So for those that do not know, can you just talk about what a speed bump is?
So we started in 2018 with a pilot program. You know, one of the top concerns we get from residents that call in or come to community meetings is safety and speeding in the city of Detroit, and a disregard for, you know, stop signs and red lights. But it's one of the top things that we get is a fear and a concern around safety and speeding. And so in 2018, we piloted a program with a prefabricated rubber speed cushion. And now the difference between a cushion and a hump is that a cushion is 3 separate installations across the street with space in between, and a hump is one long asphalt installation across the street. So in 2018, we started with a speed cushion pilot, and at 32 different locations, one in each of the 7 districts, or one corridor in each of the 7 districts, we installed these to see if the neighbors reported that, first of all, it made them feel safer, and there was in fact a reduction in speeding, that they weren't a nuisance to the neighborhood, and that they also held up to the traffic we receive on our residential streets. We installed them to rave reviews, and everybody loved them and reported that they worked how they were supposed to work. They held up through the winter with minimal maintenance. And in 2019, it was then a priority to increase the amount that we were able to install. And so in 2019, we opened a resident request portal on the city's website in which residents could go in themselves and request a speed hump installation on their street. We did not realize at that time how popular the program was going to be. And we had enough budget in 2019 to install at a little over 500 locations. And we received in that first year probably 3,000 requests. And so we weren't able to get to nearly as many as were desired in the city, but we were still able to install quite a few. This year in 2020, we again put more budget money towards the program in order to install additional locations. And we had enough money to put in about 1,200 locations across the city. And we again have that resident request portal open, and we are at about 8,000 requests now. So even if we're at 1,200 that we can install, there are still far more requests than we can get to. They continue to be popular. They continue to get rave reviews for streets that have received them. And so looking at the 2021 program, it became again a priority to grow the program even larger. And next year we are going to be looking to install those 4,500 locations. It still does not get to every request that we have, but we are growing it, and we are trying to meet the resident demand as quickly as our budget will allow us to.
Okay, thank you. And so just recently, I read about a neighborhood that raised money and started their own speed bump, but they removed it. I think the city removed it. How can a neighborhood like that request speed bumps? And I know you said you have a list. What can the city do? And what is the likelihood of them receiving it? I know the city removed the one that neighborhood, had installed. What if, and I know we're getting requests from individuals, but if you get an organization that requests a speed bump, what is the likelihood that that organization will receive that speed bump?
So there are a number of challenges with allowing residents or neighborhood associations to install their own traffic calming measures. First and foremost is the safety and liability. We had to put out specific specifications for manufacturers to create what we have deemed safe. There are lots of local and federal laws that dictate what can go on the public right-of-way. And at the end of the day, DPW is the steward of the public right-of-way. And so anything that gets installed in the street then falls back on our, with our liability and our purview. And so we can't have anybody just installing any type of traffic measure they see fit on their streets. There's also a challenge when it comes to allowing for fundraising to occur for people to raise their own money in order to either hire a contractor to meet the city spec and or give the city money to then install their own. And that the trouble there is then we are really creating a situation where there are neighborhoods of haves and have-nots. And we really want to make sure that this particular program, because it services safety in such a big way, that we are being vigilant in making sure that it is geographically fair across the city, and that neighborhoods across all socioeconomic spectrums are able to receive them. And the last thing we want is to create a program that only serves a couple neighborhoods or that serves better a couple neighborhoods in the city as opposed to the city as a whole. So at this time, we do not have a mechanism for neighborhoods or individuals to fundraise for their own speed humps. That's not to say that as we get more speed humps installed in an equitable manner, that at some time there might be a program, but at this time, we do not have a program in place to allow for people to fundraise for their own.
Okay, and before we go to questions, I have just one more question, and that is, can you talk about the community outreach that is occurring before a neighborhood plan is implemented and the speed bumps are actually installed?
So the speed hump installation process starts with our boots on the ground, with our city council offices and with our district manager offices, as well as then the resident requests. So we have obviously many residents that have come in and they have requested. We have certain engineering criteria that we have to filter through, but then we also really rely on the feedback from our councilperson's offices and our district manager's offices to help us prioritize locations. And so that community outreach starts in your meetings and in our district manager meetings, where they're going to the neighborhoods, they're sitting down with folks, they're hearing the complaints, and then we're trying to work through where some of those locations might be prioritized. We've also made a really strong effort in trying to get all of the blocks that have a school and or a park on them to try and get them speed humps as well. So that's where the community engagement starts. That's where we start to hear the rumbles of desire for speed humps. From there, then once they are decided as an appropriate location to be installed, and then if they've made it for that year's program, we go out and flyer door to door to let the residents on that block know that they will be receiving a speed hump. And then after that, we may or may not get calls, but then the contractors and or the city's staff goes out and actually execute the install of a speed hump.
Okay, I'm gonna cut my questions, and we know that we have at least a few callers on the line that have questions. If we can go to the callers that have questions.
Council President, can we do a few questions on Facebook first, please?
Sure.
Okay, so we actually received an email in the office today, and I see a couple of postings on Facebook, and it says, we have been waiting since 2018. We have submitted several requests online annually, and in 2018 during a press conference near the park during Curtis Street installation, and this is for Peterson Park, which it says is near Pickford. And says there was a deadly accident speeding there in 2017. 2 innocent people were killed. They've made requests to DPW, to the mayor's office, and through their district manager. So they're trying to find out how the speed bump can be put near Peterson Park. And then we also had questions regarding the Herman Kiefer area for speed humps.
So I am going to, again, on specific street levels, I'd have to look through the 8,000 requests that we have and give you more direct feedback, but I'm going to say that this is a theme that we hear over and over again on our calls. Speeding is a big issue in the city right now, and sadly, we get these reports almost daily of people calling in to report that there was an accident or a death, on their street. And we are trying, obviously, again, to continue to make this a priority project and to get to as many locations as possible. I don't have a timeline for that specific location right now, but I can get that offline. But yes, we get these requests of people that have applied. Again, we have 8,000 requests of people that applied back when the program started, and they're still wondering why they don't have them. And there's thousands of those across the city. We just haven't installed and haven't had enough budget to install all of the locations that have been requested.
Quick follow-up, is there any priority that's given if there's been a tragedy or an accident such as the one near Peterson Park where someone was killed?
So, and again, I'd have to pull the police report of what this specific incident was. I don't have that specific information in front of me right now, but we have been working with DPD to identify some locations that they know are problem areas, and we have installed in other areas that correspond with that type of feedback. But I don't want to speak just to a specific incident that I don't have the information in front of me right now. But yes, ultimately we work with DPD and we do try to identify those spaces.
Next question on Facebook.
Those are basically kind of dealing with the same issue, Council President. I'm not seeing any more on Facebook unless my colleagues can see more than I'm able to see.
Okay, thank you. Then I want to go to the callers that were online. I know we had a caller that was online regarding streetscape. Is that caller still there?
Yes, Council President, there were several. If you could ask them to please raise their hand again.
Okay, I see 6 participants who have their hand raised.
Okay, this is for
7.
caller. Okay, caller 973.
Caller, your last 3 digits are 973.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, thank you. it was the muted button. Hi, Council President Brenda Jones, and to your guests, thank you for having the meeting. I wanted to briefly comment on the speed bumps. Apparently, there is an issue with those bumps because every week on the Board of Police Commissioners meeting, the mayor's meeting, they're talking about speeding. Yes, the young people that were killed on that street were family of our church members, and I'm just shocked that they haven't done anything. But this is a widespread problem that's probably beyond the planning department. So that's something the mayor, it has something that has to be done because there are a lot of deaths as a result of that. That's my comment on that. The second comment, and I'm glad, Council President, you let us know about this meeting, because sometimes we're in between the work schedule, that the issue that I have with the planning department, my concerns, that when one of the districts in the city of Detroit, in the Livernois, Epworth area, and some of the community came out to tell, I guess the planning department came out to speak with the community, and they were letting them know in terms of turning their district from residential to industrial. But I do thank God for the city council, because that was voted down. But we made complaints to the planning department and we made phone calls to come into a community and make decisions when the community stated that they were not interested. I have to be honest, I do not trust the planning department. And I personally went up on the floor to find out. I did get the call back and had the discussion. So that's the issue that I have. And I just wanted to let you know before I end, the NCRC, which is the National Community Reinvestment Coalition, they're now doing a series in 142 cities, and Detroit is one of them, about the segregation and environmental issues that are happening in our communities. So when the planning department, when you go in these communities, the reason that people do probably go to the suburbs, probably there are issues there. The speeding, I mean, it's another issues across the country because a lot of have to do with the legalization of the marijuana. But I'm just stating that I don't trust things with the planning department because it took the community to come out before the city council, that I thank God they voted it down when you came to that community and wanted to change that residential area from resident to industrial. And that's why, and we wonder why we have so many COVID cases in the city of Detroit. So we are watching that with issues dealing with that. So I just wanted to make that that comment. Thank you very much, Council President.
Council President, you are muted.
I have been in, I'm sorry, I was unmuted. I've been in neighborhoods myself where I'm sitting in an SUV and my car just shakes because they are speeding so fast. And so I know there has been a lot of problems going on with speeding throughout the city. So the mayor did increase the number of speed bumps that are going to be installed for next year, but there was only so much money that was allocated. And as we continue to move forward, we will see more speed bumps out. So I just want to say thank you to the caller for calling. I know we had 6 or 7 people who were waiting. So I'm going to ask can you all stay a few minutes longer over 3 o'clock so we can try to get as many questions answered as we can possibly get answered. Okay,
Yes,
thank
I'm
you.
happy.
Thank you. We have the next caller. Can I have the next caller, please?
Yes, Council President, one moment, please. One moment.
I know we have.
Pastor Harris, you can unmute yourself and begin to speak.
Hey, good
Pastor
afternoon,
Harris,
everyone.
thank you for your patience.
Oh, thank you for your time. Thank you, Council President. I believe it was Sister Caitlin that was sharing regarding the streetscape activity, in particular, Kirchhoff, East Grand Boulevard to Parker. I think that was the boundary scope. Wondering what type of engagement was done or communication was sent out in that neighborhood. I'm about 3 city blocks. My church is about 3 city blocks from Kercheval and to the south. And we weren't, engaged regarding any activity, the impact that we would need to plan for during this build out along Kercheval Road.
Yeah, so you broke up for a part of it there, but I think I got the gist of the question. So the Kercheval Streetscape project started, or the engagement on that, started with the planning and development framework plan that I believe they began in 2018, but it may have been 2017.
2016.
Oh, 2016, there you go. Started in 2016, and it went over the course of about 18 to 24 months, where the community had identified Kercheval as the main commercial corridor that they'd like to see city dollars or capital investment going towards. And through that planning and development process, they talked about a lot of different concepts that could be there. There were lots of neighborhood focus group meetings, but also more large scale town hall type meetings. And then in 2018, it was then passed off to the Department of Public Works in the concept phase. And then we again hosted, I think, 5 town hall style meetings to talk about the very specifics of the engineering that would have to go into that project. And then again, also did some smaller focus group meetings, specifically on the streetscapes. Our focus group meetings tend to be the businesses along the corridor, since they're the most impacted. But our larger scale meetings are town hall style meetings that are publicized via the city's website and through the Department of Neighborhoods and through the district managers' meetings. And then from there, since we initiated construction this year, we have a progress meeting every other week. And then also every other week, we have what we call a community hour, where the contractors themselves, as well as city staff, remain on a call and let community people call in and ask questions. And those meetings are publicized also on the city's website via the district managers. And then on the e-news blasts that we put out every week as well on construction activities. So if your church is only a few blocks off, I mean, this has been a project that's been in the spotlight for a number of years. I apologize that you felt that you weren't notified, but there has been pretty extensive effort into getting the message out. But I would love to hear of how you plug into community engagement and what's going on in the city and what we could have done better to make sure that you and the parishioners at your church were notified of the project.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm certainly curious to at least be added to your distribution list. If there's weekly touch points, that'd be great. I did engage with ATT for any impact or constraints that came out of the tear down and the build out. There was a telephone outage for about a month, which impacted the neighborhood. But if there's weekly touch points, I'd like to be included in that, because I'm still curious and have some questions.
Excellent.
Certainly.
Yes, there definitely is. If I can get your email, I can add you to the email blast. I don't want you to give it over the meeting here. But Linda or Stacy, is there a way to get Pastor Harris's email address to me?
Yes. I'm sorry, I didn't hear. Pastor Harris, did you say we already have your email address, or you're sending something to Council President's office?
Yeah, if we can get if you can send.
I'm on the e-blast list from Council President, but I can certainly reply and send it by.
Okay,
by
can you
email.
just call our office and give us that email address, and we'll make sure we forward it to her. That way you're not giving your email address to the world.
Okay, yeah, not a problem at all. Thank you.
All right,
Thank you all, and
so
thank you for the
very
feedback,
much.
Caitlin. That's perfect.
All right, thank you. Good seeing you. Our next caller, question.
Just one moment, Council President. 1 second, please. I am going to, I'm trying to see for Mr. Maton or Matten. Okay. Okay, Mr. Madden is on.
Thank you for your patience. We can now talk about your streetscape that you wanted to talk about.
Okay, I'm back. Keep going out of internet service here. Good to see you back again. A couple things. One is that when I got the email about this meeting, there was a link for the streetscapes, and I wasn't able to access that. Is that possible? I can get that email to me?
So the Streetscape website is detroitmi.gov/streetscapes. And that'll direct you to the directory, and you can choose which specific project you're interested in hearing more about.
Okay. All right. Thank you. My next two questions going to be with Ms. Trudeau as well as you, Caitlin. I am CEO of Demographic Inspirations Detroit, which is a neighborhood revitalization organization. And we've been working in the northwest corner of Focus Hope area for about 5 going on 6 years now. And we are working on a place-making space. And it's taken some time to get it completed through fruition. With Ms. Trudeau, hopefully that I'm trying to get some idea suggestions in regards to making this space. We got over 23,000 square feet of space to make grassy area. We've had it all tested for lead. So we're at the federal level that it's okay to, change that or do something there. So with what we're wanting to do is either put turf or seeded or whatever the case may be, or get some suggestions from maybe Parks and Recreation or somebody to complete the project.
Thank you for your question. We actually, in the Planning and Development Department, we have a number of staff who would be happy to meet with you and your team to take a look at the project. We have both architects who can help weigh in on some of the design ideas, but also we have some landscape architects on staff as well. And so I would love to figure out how to get your contact information. I can also provide my email address here if you'd like to follow up with an email to me, and I can set up a meeting with some of our staff to take a look.
Katy?
Yes.
If you want to reach out to me, I do know how to reach out to Mr. Madden. And
Okay.
I can get that information to you.
Okay, I will follow up with you, Ms. Wesley.
Okay, excellent.
Okay. And I did want to.
Our next. I'm sorry. Were you?
I just wanted to add. I know there was a question earlier about how to view information on our planning studies, and our website is detroitmi.gov/PDD. That's a very simple URL. So I wanted to make sure I shared that.
Thank you.
All right. Next caller is Willie Bell.
Willie Bell.
Willie Bell, can you unmute yourself?
Hi, Council President. How are you?
Blessed. Thank you for asking.
Good, good. I love all the work that you do and all the efforts that you make trying to help beautify the city and all the issues that we constantly bring to you on a weekly basis. You just seem to be tireless in your efforts to and your love for the city. So I just want you to know I appreciate all that you do.
Thank you. Thank you so very much.
Right now, so I have an organization called Family Assistance for Renaissance Men. It's a program designed to help fathers get back on track with their children. But what we do is we partner with the Detroit Land Bank, and we take land bank property and we refurbish them using the men in the program to teach them a skill: plumbing, electrical, drywall, paint, carpentry, and the whole 9 yards. We do this and we pay them a stipend to do so. Once that house is finished, then it is opted up to the men to receive the ability to live in those homes so that they can qualify for equal parenting time with their children, because the courts won't allow you equal parenting time unless you have stable housing. So that being said, we've targeted one area over in the Northwest Goldberg area where we have 6 parcels of land and the one house that we're about to finish. but we have our sights on other properties in the area. My question would be for the planning department, and also from the mayor's standpoint, how do we go about receiving the funding that was allocated for refurbishing land bank properties, and how do we qualify for that? And is this area an area that in the planning mindset, something that area that you guys are planning on coming to?
Can you share again the exact area?
The Northwest Goldberg area.
Oh, Northwest Goldberg.
That's in District 5.
Yes, I'm familiar with that. That actually is, we don't have explicit geographies for the next planning studies that we're going to do identified quite yet. We were well on our way to identifying those areas, and then we've had some financial setbacks as it's related to the COVID-19 pandemic. But that is an area of the city where we have been pursuing some projects and would likely be doing planning there in the next couple of years. We did make a commitment to our city council during our budget hearing in February that we would be striving to plan to do some type of neighborhood framework planning, as I discussed earlier in the call, for the rest of the city within the next 5 years. So if we haven't been in your neighborhood yet, we will be in the next 5 years, hopefully a little bit sooner. I'm actually not familiar with resources that are currently identified to help with rehabbing of land bank homes, but I do know that there are, the mayor has been working on Proposal N, which has identified ways that the city can issue some bond releases that would help us bring money into the city that could help us with that type of work. But I'm not currently aware of other dollars available, but would be happy to talk further about what resources might be available.
That would be great. Now, because it seems it makes sense for the city to tie in with organizations and communities that are already, organizations that are already investing in certain communities, so that way we can build on the momentum and enhance faster the cities in which have already gotten, I should say the communities in which have already gotten started on some of the revitalization. So
Yes.
if we're already in that area, we're around the school, we're over near the what is that building? That's it's right there on the corner of Lawton and the West Grand Boulevard. I know it was up for
Lee
an
Plaza.
RFP. Lee Plaza, yes. So we're right there behind Lee Plaza.
Yes.
And so, we're doing our part. And so we're just looking for help, looking for assistance. I did do some.
Excuse me, I'm sorry, Willie.
Yes, ma'am.
Willie, forgive me. We are running behind schedule, and our guests are kind enough to stay on just to try to answer the few questions. May I put you in contact with Katy?
That would be wonderful.
This is Linda Wesley, Willie. You can email
Hey, Linda,
me.
how are you?
I
Yes,
am great. If you will email me, I will gladly put you in contact with Katy.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Oh, my pleasure. And thank you so much for calling in.
All right.
Thank you. The next caller is Galaxy Note 8. Galaxy Note 8.
Good afternoon. Can you unmute yourself, please?
Hello, yes.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. This one might be for Katy Trudeau. I live in an Island View area. My name is Toya Watts. I'm CVA president over here in this area. And I'm talking about the development that's going on Carterville, Roxbury, and then they're cleaning off another land over here that I don't know what's going to be here, but you hear through the community, it's going to be another apartment building in which we don't know who's getting ready to develop and who's it's going to be affordable. Number two, Katy, right quick, is Butzel. They in the playground area. They putting $1 million in the playground area. Our center need help. The Butzel Center need to be upgraded really bad. And I don't see how they putting so much money into a small area of the playground when our center inside of the building need more help. So tell me what's going on, Katy. Who's developing? And we over here on the corner of Roxbury and Kercheval and Van Dyke, and I don't see how it's 92 apartments gonna fit into this area with people.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Watts. Nice to hear from you again. I'm actually not familiar at the moment with the other development that you're referring to. The first one, Parker Durand, 90 units, about half of which
Like Katy,
are affordable. Is currently under construction. Did I freeze?
Yes,
you was frozen.
Okay, sorry about that. I was just stating to Ms. Watts that on the inquiry around the second development, the first development being Parker Durand, which is 90 units, about half of which are affordable. I'm very familiar, but the other project, I will follow up with our housing department, who's been working on other projects in that corridor to get information there. And then just to address investments at the Butzel Center, we do have money to improve the playfield. The playfield itself, I agree that the center is in need of some capital improvements, but I would also argue quite strongly that the playfield is very much in need of improvements as well as modernization to be serving the residents better. So we've prioritized the park improvements. We can do a little bit more there with fewer dollars. So we're going to move ahead with those and are excited that those will start construction hopefully later this year. And then I will also follow up with our general services department, who manages capital investments as well as the maintenance regime of our rec centers, to find out if I can get any more information from them about what or if there are capital investments contemplated for Butzel.
All right, our next caller.
Okay, hold on for one moment, Ms. Wesley. Let me just say we are running extremely behind. I know I have another meeting. I don't know about the other two young ladies who probably have other meetings, because I know our schedule has been back to back. I am going to take two more calls, and I know people are still raising their hand, and I know this has been a very good conversation we've had today. We will continue it another time, but I am going to take two more calls. I'm going to take the 811, and I'm going to take Griffin, and those are going to be our last two calls. And I am going to ask if you all can make your comments very brief, because I'm running late for another meeting.
Okay, thank you, Council President Jones, so much for this opportunity. My comment is, as a resident that in the Grass 7 Mile area, which is receiving the neighborhood stabilization dollars, our engagement process has been going well. But my concern is that the city hired a group out of Sweden that is showing us pretty pictures. You're showing us pretty pictures, but you never walked our community. Each community in the city of Detroit is unique, and you cannot develop pictures that we're supposed to be excited about if you do not know this community. So my concern is that I'm quite sure not only in the city of Detroit, but across this country, we could have found someone to draw pretty pictures that could actually come into our community and not someone that is unknown. And I just wanted to say that, because if we're investing dollars, we need to be investing real dollars, even down to the business end of it. So I just wanted you to know that. But I'm very happy with the engagement, because we are moving through with it. But I don't like the idea that we're paying money out to groups that are not even in this country. And we don't want to wind up like Herman Kiefer, where residents have no voice or say in what's going on in their community. We just don't want that. Thank you so much for the opportunity to express that.
Thank you for your call. Let me just say to you, and everyone knows, I am one on every contract that asks the question of, are there Detroiters? Could you have hired a Detroiter? As a matter of fact, we are working to make that a part of every contract that comes through, as opposed to me having to ask that question on every contract that we get. So we are working on that. I am working extremely hard to ensure that we have Detroiters and at least Michiganders to do the jobs that we have coming before us. So thank you for your comment, and know that we are working extremely hard on that.
May I just add that our project manager, we did hire a firm for that plan where one of the consultants is from outside of the country, but many of the sub-consultants that are part of that planning study are Detroit-based or Michigan-based. And then our planner who is leading that plan is actually a resident of the area that she's planning. And so I just wanted to make sure we do have local hiring as a priority, as well, both internal to the city. We try to, in planning and development, hire local residents as our project managers wherever possible, as well as in the full makeup of a consulting team.
Thank you so much. Pastor Griffin, you are our last caller. If you can unmute yourself, Pastor Griffin. Pastor Griffin, if you can unmute yourself, you are on mute.
Sorry about that. I was trying to unmute. I want to thank you all for being here on today and staying as long as you're staying. I think this is for Caitlin, though. I want to talk about Pilgrim Baptist Church, where I pastor. We've been distributing food every week since 2007. We're distributing through the pandemic. We have not stopped. We had to change our process, which meant that we had to move it outside. We feed 200 families plus a week. And cars, they come through the alleyway in the back. I did submit a request for the alleyway to get, so we can cut the bushes and get the trash, because we've been keeping it up. But the issue is this: since we moved it outside and we have all of these cars and they're lined up really well on Ryan, and then we lead them into our parking lot to go around and open up their trunks because, you know, they have to have their masks. All my people have to have PPE equipment, but they still have to enter and exit through the alleyway. We need help with the alleyway because we're afraid that this winter that the cars won't be able to go through. We did put down a lot of gravel to close up the holes that were there, but we need the help of your department and whoever else to help us get this alleyway together so we can still serve these 200 plus families a week through the winter. So that's what I wanted to put to you. Also, I wanted to thank you and your department. We were one of the pilots for the speed layer, I guess not bumps, but anyway, it was tremendous over here at Woodbridge Estates because we had people who are escaping through this particular road. And now it has changed it 150%. So I want to thank you for that. What we're doing here is we're trying to stop signs first. No, the speed limit signs first, because there's speed monsters over here as well. And before we request some more speed bumps. So that's all I had for you on today.
Great. First, Pastor Griffin, thank you so much for serving the community, especially through the pandemic. We've all had to pivot to make what we do work. And I don't know, again, the specific extent of the alley, but the Department of Neighborhoods and the General Services Department are launching a program right now to clean up 500 blocks of alley. And I'm not sure if you have reached out to anyone in that program.
Yes, I have.
Oh, great.
I have. Yeah, I have. However, I'm getting, it has to be the neighbors. Okay, it can't be commercial. We are the church. We only have 5 houses over there. So I'm already getting run around, but they're supposed to come out.
Okay, great. And so again, my department, though we have purview in the alley, the actual cleanup of the bushes and the shrubs and and the debris is being handled by the General Services Department.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but if there are potholes or things of that sort in the alley, that's something that
Yes.
we can take a look at. Could you give me the specific extent of the alley?
When you say
Between what block and what block?
okay, yes. Gritsdale and going towards Nevada.
Okay.
It's right behind, the alley is right behind Ryan Road, Gritsdale, Nevada way.
Brixdale to Nevada.
Yeah. May not be, I'll get you that name of that other street, but it's going that way.
Okay, and I will, I can reach out to the district manager and GSD and see if this is on there. I know they are partnering with neighborhood associations, but I can work to reach out and have them take a look as well.
I appreciate that, Caitlin. I'll get your number. I'll get your contact information. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Pastor Griffin. Thank you to our guests. I just want to thank everyone who participated today. Today's discussion demonstrates my commitment to community outreach and engagement. It also demonstrates a commitment to our guests who have stayed right now 25 minutes longer than we were supposed to be here. So I want to just say thank you to our guests who have stayed and stayed with us to answer the questions. And we still had other questions of individuals that were waiting. However, we cannot answer all the questions in this one session. So we know this is a hot topic. We will plan another session for this particular topic. Again, I do want to thank everyone for being here with us. Let me say, my proposed community outreach ordinance will ensure that the citizens are not only informed of upcoming changes within their community, but will give them a chance to voice their concerns before everything is finalized. The public hearing for the community outreach ordinance will be next Tuesday, on September the 29th at 10:05 a.m. at our formal session. Also on Monday, September the 28th at 6 p.m., we will have a special evening edition of Live from the Table. And this will be a special neighborhood improvement resolution community outreach. Remember, for next week, Live from the Table will be Monday evening at 6 p.m. instead of Wednesday at 2 p.m. And we will be talking about the neighborhood improvement resolution community outreach. Thank you again to all of my guests, and especially thank you to the two of you who have stayed a half an hour longer than you were supposed to stay to answer the questions, or that I asked you to stay. I thank you because I know your schedules are extremely busy. So I thank you for staying with us this extra half an hour. Please follow me on social media or call my office at 224-1245 if you have any questions. Also, as we have approached the flu season, please, if you're out, put that mask on, because I want everyone to stay safe. I want everyone to be here for our next edition. So that means you have to continue to wear your mask and stay safe during these seasons while we are still dealing with COVID. Again, thank you for being here. I want to thank my staff, whom without my staff, I would not be able to do the things that I do. Believe it or not, they're texting me at 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning. So I want to thank them for all the work that they do as well. Thank you, audience, for being here with us on Facebook as well as on the phone. We appreciate you. We appreciate everything that everyone is doing to help keep Detroit beautiful. Thank you again for being here. Stay safe, and until we meet again, God bless. This
Thank
will
you, Council
conclude
President.
our meeting for
Thank
today.
you.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you.